22 minutes past 7 now. 9 Insulate Britain activists have been jailed for blocking the M25. The group were banned from obstructing busy roads back in September, but continued to do so.
The campaign group remained defiant, comparing themselves to the suffragettes and Martin Luther King. So the question is it right to lock them up? We're joined now by journalist George Monbiot, who says they are martyrs and says that they're doing the right thing and they're raising the profile of a very important subject, and also journalist Dawn Neeson, who says they are far from being martyrs.
Morning, both.
Lovely to have you both with us. The idea of them becoming martyrs, George, is an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think up till now, the vast majority of the British public, I think 72% in a survey, weren't on the side of the behaviour of Insulate Britain and what they were doing. However, by locking them up, the concern is, I guess, is that going to draw people to their cause? And you believe that it is?
Well, regardless of what you think about their tactics, there's no question that these people who've been locked up were acting in the hope of making a better world for everyone. They're trying to prevent the greatest crisis that humanity has ever faced, which is systemic environmental collapse, the collapse of our life support systems. They weren't doing this for selfish reasons. They were doing it at great self-sacrifice. It's caused them a lot of harm. They've been sent to prison. And when people see that level of commitment and that level of self-sacrifice, that does turn people's heads. People do begin to think, oh, hang on a minute, if they're prepared to undergo that, then they must really believe in what they're doing. They must be really committed to it, and perhaps we should pay them more attention. And this, as we've seen with many previous movements in history, is how change happens.
Dawn, I think the suffragettes' motto was deeds, not words. I think from sort of about 1912, they became very militant in their methods, law-breaking, violence, hunger strikes, a number of things that drew people to their cause. There does seem to be some parallels between what the suffragettes were doing and what Insulate Britain are trying to do.
Yeah, good morning. It's interesting, isn't it? The suffragettes, though, in the bill that went through Parliament in 1913, actually lost support of the public and Parliament because of their actions. So that aside, the history aside, the difference is the suffragettes didn't have a voice. They had no democratic voice. Martin Luther King, who they've also compared themselves to, represented people who also had been silenced. These people had no real option. Literally, while Insulate Britain had been carrying out their behaviour and been in court, COP26 was up the road, literally 30,000 people from around the world, with thousands of other people all thinking and trying to do something to alter, as George has quite rightly pointed out, something we all need to be concentrating on and something we do need to be working towards. And, you know, the latest poll, we don't have one, obviously, since the court case yesterday, just 5% think what Insulate Britain doing is helpful to the cause. And, you know, I'm as green as you can get. I've got bikes in the background here. I don't even own a car. However, it doesn't seem to be helping the cause, and to be a true martyr, which is what they are saying they are, surely you have to be promoting your cause. And the whole world is talking about climate change at the moment and what we can do globally. But I think, and let's be honest here, it's a small group of people stopping people going about their business and risking lives as well, not just theirs, but people driving to school and work and ambulances on the motorways. It's not helping their cause. It's causing a lot of anger towards them. And I just think there has to be a better way to go about raising awareness of this cause.
George, you say that jailing them creates that martyrdom for them. But the fact of the matter is they've been jailed because what they were doing was winding everybody up, stopping traffic. As Dawn says, in some cases, people weren't able to get to see ill members of family or even hospital treatment for themselves. And frankly, it was downright dangerous, wasn't it, what they were doing? I mean, you know, we were really one protester away from a serious accident. I mean, this picture of a very frustrated driver almost running over two protesters, that's not martyrdom, that's just, you know, dangerous and upsetting for people.
Well, there's no question that they were breaking the law and they expected to be punished for breaking the law. It's a totally accountable action, in that they are saying, yes, this is who we are. This is our identity. We're not trying to disguise what we're doing. We're not trying to disguise ourselves from the police. We put our hands up and say, fine, arrest us, we're breaking the law. What they're desperately trying to do, and we really are desperate now, is to say, look, the clock is ticking, time is running out on the greatest crisis that we've ever faced. You know, we are, it's almost unimaginable what we're facing now, and it's very hard to talk about it without crying, because it's the end of everything. I mean, it's the end of our hopes, our dreams, our ambitions, our loves, our hates, everything we've dreamt of for our children, the good world that we want for them, that could go. If global systems, Earth systems, reach a tipping point, the planet will flip from a habitable state to an uninhabitable state. And, you know, Dawn, we love Dawn and bless her, but, you know, when she says, well, people are represented and, you know, they can have their voice, the great majority of the world's people are not having a voice in this. You know, we're doing it to them. We with our huge carbon emissions, the amount of fossil fuel we're burning, we're destroying the lives of people on the other side of the world. You know, people in Bangladesh, people in sub-Saharan Africa, people in Central America, their lives are being absolutely trashed by the way we're just going about our daily lives, driving on the road, not insulating our homes, producing all these greenhouse gas emissions. We are literally destroying lives at a phenomenal rate right now. And those people are not represented in our decisions. They're not represented in our political system. And so the Insulate Britain protesters, they are just desperately, frantically trying to get attention for the scale of what is happening here and the terrifying nature of it, which simply, I'm afraid, has not sunk in with most people. Yeah. Most people are just simply not aware of how serious this is.
Dawn, it is interesting, isn't it? I mean, George there, as you can hear and we can all see, driven to tears by the environmental disaster that people like George and those who are campaigning on this see ahead of us. But there seems to be a massive gap here in how everybody else, other than those people who see this as an absolute climate catastrophe, see it, and everybody else who thinks, you're stopping me going to work, you need to be locked up. How do we bridge that gap?
It is tricky, and I feel, you know, and I feel for George, and watching her getting very emotional. It is upsetting, and, you know, as I said earlier, it is something we should all be concerned about. But I do genuinely believe there has to be better ways to go about it than risking your own lives in this way and walking onto the M25, Susanna, in front of oncoming traffic. I mean, it was chilling. I mean, yes. And, you know, the footage you showed of that lady trying to sort of take her little boy to school, I think she was.
Yes.
It is chilling to watch those scenes, and someone will lose their lives. And I don't want that. And George has quite rightly pointed out that, you know, people globally are suffering because of this. But it is something, and look, I'm not a biggest fan of COP26. There's a reason we're on COP26 and we have 27 and 28 already planned. However, nations are at least talking about it now. And I do think that what Insulate Britain do in particular, and remember Extinction Rebellion have distanced themselves from them as well, it's not really helping the cause. And as I said, I am green. And the other thing, Susanna, is this particular court case cost the taxpayer £91,000. Now, that alone is enough to fully insulate, not just roof insulate, 15 terraced houses in this country. So it's, you know, we all need to start doing more. We all need to start doing our bit. But I genuinely believe this is dangerous, ill thought out, and not helpful.
George, I'm sorry that you feel tearful about it, but I wonder what, you know, you obviously feel something that is not getting across to that majority of people that Ben pointed out do not support these tactics or this action and think, frankly, lock them up, you know, teach them a lesson and get them off the roads. What is it that is driving you to tears and making you fearful about the lives of our children and grandchildren? And what needs to change to make everybody else feel what you're feeling and not think, you know, isn't that an overreaction?
I have 2 children and, you know, every day I think, did I do the right thing?
I mean, Dawn, clearly very emotional for George, and, you know, he's thinking about his family. It's interesting you mentioned Extinction Rebellion distancing themselves from Insulate Britain, but of course you'll remember, because you're a West Ham fan like me, you'll remember that Extinction Rebellion, you know, they glued themselves to a tube in Plaistow, which of course is a very working class part of London. And the tube is one of the most green and efficient ways of delivering people around the transport network in London as well. So they've equally done things that caused all sorts of problems on the tube that day.
This is the problem, Ben. And I remember I was literally on the scene there, and I happened to be working on your programme that morning, so I was literally able to talk to people there at the scene. I remember, you know, talking to people, ordinary working class people in that part of London, trying to get to work. There was one little girl, she had a dance lesson that day. Her mum was trying to get to school. The little girl was in tears. And, you know, the mum then went home and got in her car. So it's having the reverse effect. And, you know, I am converted. I don't need preaching to, but I think what Insulate Britain do is putting off the people they do need to be sort of talking to. And there was one incident, Ben, where they Insulate Britain, this was not Extinction Rebellion, they glued themselves to a print site, for a newspaper print site. And it was the very day that those newspapers were carrying a massive interview on climate change and sort of getting the message across. And they stopped that getting out to the people that do need telling about these things and getting on board. And this is pushing people further away. And I feel dreadfully sorry for George. And it is incredibly upsetting if you are that passionate about it. And, you know, if I was in the studio, I'd give him a hug. But I just think this is wrong, and it is putting people off and making go the opposite way.
George, I think, you know, no one wants to see you upset. I know you won't be alone in that. There's plenty of people who worry about the future like you do, and there's plenty of people making choices about whether they have children and the responsibilities they have. But let me ask you, we've just had COP26 and, you know, a huge global effort to tackle the problem, the impending doom that some countries, in fact, are facing. Do you get any comfort out of any of the pledges made?
Well, first, look, don't feel upset for me. You know, this isn't about me. This is about all of us. You know, I'm feeling what I think we should all be feeling. You know, we're so close to the potential tipping points. You know, we could really lose everything that's so beautiful and wonderful about our lives and about our planet. And unfortunately, at COP26, there was just foot dragging. You know, the rich world's governments, they more or less shut out the governments from the poor world. They just failed to take measures any way commensurate with the scale of what needs to happen, which is basically we need to decide to leave fossil fuels in the ground by 2030. You know, no more burning of fossil fuels from that point. And we're nowhere near there. But, you know, if we don't take action on that scale, as drastic as that, then, you know, the Earth systems are complex systems. They absorb stress to a certain amount, and then they suddenly flip over into a state where we just won't be able to survive in most parts of the world. And all the beautiful other life forms too, the great majority of those will also be wiped out. This is what's happened in previous mass extinctions. This is what we're facing. And, you know, we're desperate. I mean, I'm not in Insulate Britain, but, you know, I know people who are, and in Extinction Rebellion, I've been involved with them. We're absolutely desperate to try to get this message across. What does it take? Well, what do we need to do?
George, we can see how passionate you are about it, and it's great to get your thoughts this morning. And Dawn, as ever, thank you for joining us too. Lots of people getting in touch. The vast majority, though, however, don't agree with what Insulate Britain are doing. As Sharon says, George, I get the message, but the deliverance is not gaining the right support that you want. Steve makes a point. He says, I've got no sympathy whatsoever for these protesters being locked up. They stopped people getting to important treatments. And a lot of people talk about people not being able to get to hospital. We saw the footage of the man sort of saying, my mum's in hospital, I need to get to the hospital. She's having a sort of cancer treatment. And that's the sort of thing that people got very, very angry about. However, one or two of you Josh saying they should not go for jail for what they've done. They're making us all aware of what we're doing to the planet. We need actions like this to get people to actually sit up and listen.
I wonder, you let us know what you think. George's interview there, very, very powerful. Frankly, he says, we're facing mass extinction, and he's driven to tears, wondering whether he did the right thing bringing children into the world when that is on the horizon. And I wonder whether that changes people's minds, whether it focuses people's minds, or whether, you know, we think, well, COP26, some changes were made. We're dealing with this, you know, in the right way, through the right channels. Keep your thoughts coming in. 7:37. Lots more stuff to come. You're watching Good Morning Britain on ITV.
See you in a bit.